Your vote is not a tool for vengeance. It's a secret license to efficient leadership. Purpose to register as a voter in 2027 by first ensuring that you have the national identity card. Because that is the only tool. I've been doing political analysis and I can tell you, the only tool available for you to change, to see the change you want, is making sure you're a voter. Welcome to the bold analysis. The president flew to China and I've been following this trip closely. My eye is really tied on this trip for one principal reason. Two reasons. Number one, 8 days. The president is supposed to be in China for 8 days. And I really want to see, I really want to see engagement day by nini anafanya day 1 up to the 8th day. I really want to see. Number two, the president went to China just 8 months after US tour. That was last year in June. And at a time, US and China are entangled in some trade war. Those two reasons. And that is why I'm going to demonstrate to you that president's speech in China, while it was deliberate, but it is a diplomatic goof from where I'm seated. So make sure you watch to the end. But first, let us look at the optics from China. Do you know? Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell and like our videos. Kindly, subscription is absolutely free. But the advantage is when you subscribe to our channel, you'll be getting notifications whenever we publish a video, and so you'll not miss our well-analyzed, objective videos. So make sure you subscribe to our channel. Let me give you a challenge. Show me one photo or any photo of the president leaving Kenya to China. This was a much hyped tour. Remember, even Raila Odinga met with the China ambassador in Kenya here with Mbadi in his office in Upper Hill. So from how I look at it, this was a high-profile tour. It is a custom that when the president is leaving the country, he's seen off by some leaders, and the photos are shared, and we're told blah blah. It's something. It's part of accountability for the president's tour, for the president's leaving the country. Do you know that yes, the president's team were there, but they were deliberately told not to post the photos of the president leaving the JKIA. And instead, what we saw curiously is these videos of the president arriving in China. Some few observations on this video. Curiously, on arrival, the reason why this was not shared is because why we normally pay attention to the video from JKIA or the photos from JKIA is we want to know who exactly has president traveled with to China, because one of the issues on these trips has been on carrying busybodies. So from there, the media is waiting to look who is in that trip that is not supposed to be there. Or there is there is a trend of overspending in these trips where we carry so many busybodies. We just reward loyalty by these trips, flying with the president. And so when we find out, we start asking, so-and-so was there, what was his value? So-and-so was there, what is his value? So-and-so was there, what is his value? But after 8 days, we'll have to analyze and see whether there was value for taxpayers' money. Or some people also are there as joyriders. There is a tendency of people joyriding around the president. So that is why we wanted to see it. But then, in China, the president was received by the prime minister, by a minister. I don't know why, maybe, but let me not read much from it. He was not received by maybe a minister is high profile in China. Maybe what I believe evil. He arrived using KQ, disembarked from Kenya Airways plane. This was curious for Kenya because last time he was in US, there were friends who allegedly donated, gave him a private jet to fly to US. So he decided to use the Pride of Africa. And that we also had to be shown because we would want to see him marketing Kenya Airways. And of course, that was a key pointer. The other issue is we tried to look, but the photographer was so strict just to show us the president. Wale wengine hatuwaonyeshwa. Except there was Odour was captured. Yes. And look at this photo here. Odour was captured. You can see him there. Oburu Odinga is the chair of the budget, or the chair of the energy committee in the National Assembly. I have not seen one died there. So I don't know whether there is any deal for Ministry of Energy. And is Oburu part of the delegation just covering that? That is also supposed to show you of some serious engagement that President Ruto will want with Oburu abroad. There is a report that unakumbuka the day Ruto was naming the cabinet, he reached out to these individuals after talking to Raila, and Raila was in Dubai, and they're a bit hesitant on it, and Oburu is the person that pushed the Kinambadis and others to go to and take up those cabinet positions. So Raila, the president has been using Oburu as the path to negotiate with Raila. So we saw Ichung'wa, of course later on, we saw Ichung'wa, Itumbi, Chirchir, Kabogo, Aaron Cheriot, Ambassador Willie Bett, of course he is there. I did not see Junet and Stewart Madzayo. So if this trip was to envision broad base, Sinimana majority and minority leader both in the Senate and the National Assembly, why not the other side? But kama ni hapa, the president will carry everyone in Azimio to go to rallies, but there I'm not seeing it. Beyond just the and the UDA Secretary General is also there, by the way. I've confirmed that. So beyond the economic crash matage, there is also high-profile political deliberation going on. Now, the second meeting that the president had was in some university, and he went to give a lecture. This lecture, I have a big problem with it. Trump placed import taxes 145 on China goods, which has also countered 125 tariff on US goods. Trump has placed tariffs on several dozen countries, causing the stock market to stumble and interest rates to increase. No, so Trump is involved in a trade war with China. But the president was making a visit. At the time, he's also conscious about that fallout. But he seemed to be, seemingly just coming out to attack Trump while in China about this. And I've seen one of tweets here that the president goofed in making that speech. I want you to take time. This speech is a bit lengthy, just 4 or so minutes. But listen to the tone of that speech and you'll understand to the way the president talks. What is he saying about Kenya in that?
Occurs within international supply chains of global cooperations. Actual trade flows are captured in export and import data, provide a very limited, maybe even distorted view of international trade. Let me share one perspective. Apple Corporation reported US dollars 391 billion sales in 2024, of which America's contribution of US dollars 167 billion, while the rest of the world contributed 224 billion. of that 391 billion. In effect, more than 2/3 of its market is outside the United States. Nike, another example, reported sales of 49 billion US dollars, 21 billion in North America, and 28 billion from the rest of the world. By and large, America's global corporations generate between half and 2/3 of their business abroad. The question we have to ask is, how is this value distributed? When Levi's or Calvin Klein jeans are stitched in Kenya or Cambodia, then sold in China or India, with the profits accruing to the Global North Corporation, which share of the value is global trade and which is not? It's a question I hope some of the students in this university will explore. It stands to reason that when the entire value chain is factored into the trade equation, North America enjoys an even more significant commercial surplus from the global trade than is reflected in the trade figures we are currently working with. Indeed, this is the conclusion reached in a study by the European think tank Center for Economic Policy Research, published in 2024, which was titled Globalization and Profitability of US Firms. Let me quote them, and I quote, "Lower trade barriers allowed North American firms to enter new markets and utilize their intangible assets to boost profitability. Foreign profitability of US firms increased by much more than domestic profitability." End of quote. It is an assignment to all of us as we discuss matters trade to know that the statistics that are available do not give a full picture of what values and what trade we are working with. There is a big difference between numbers of trading goods that is not complemented with numbers trade in services.
And when I was just shooting, the report just coming in now, and I told you that things are not going to work very easy. The U.S. Secretary of State Rubio has actually cancelled the visit to Kenya due to undisclosed reasons. He was expected on the country on 28th of this March. The cancellation follows Kenyan President William Ruto's state visit to China, marking him as the first African leader to visit Beijing since the US imposed a 10% tariff on imports, including Kenyan goods, on April 5, 2025. Rubio was expected to discuss how to contain China's influence and the multinational security support mission in Haiti. So Rubio has cancelled the meeting, and that is why I was actually telling you that we goofed. I'm not saying, of course we needed to weigh, but the trip to China was rushed, and probably even China knew that Rubio was supposed to come in the country. Clearly, he's talking about, he is already posturing that Kenya is supporting China in that. The Trump subsequent, of course, Trump administration has put a conservationist narrative, conservationist policy. You know, he's even reducing embassies. He's cut aids. He's put some tariffs on Kenya, even though the tariffs are on Trump's subsequent 90-day pause on wide-ranging global tariffs. He's put a pause on those global tariffs, except China. So China on Monday warned other countries against making trade deals with the United States that could negatively impact China. And look at this screenshot here. I'm going to look at this because this is a matter that we are really looking at. Countries face pressure to pick sides in the US-China trade war. This is what is happening. Countries are struggling which side. Do I go with the US or do I stick with China? Those are the two global powers. Even though if you ask me, the discussion, the two trade war between China and US, it could be the making of the two presidents, the two world economies, so that they mainstream and they test the global economy. How will it shrink or how will it tremble with the two fighting? That could be also one of the cards under the wraps. So the countries are trying to align. Who do we support? China firmly opposes any party reaching a deal at the expense of China's interest, China's commerce industry said in a statement. Korean companies had even received letters from the Chinese government warning of retributions if they export any product to the US military contractors which contained Chinese critical minerals. So if there is any military gadget that will be needed by US manufactured in Korea with Chinese minerals, China is warning Korea that they risk retribution. Now, you look at, I'm giving you this story so that you look at the extent of China-US fight. Why, even as the president was in the US, the president speaks in China, he needed to be a little bit more careful on it. And I've spoken to people who are saying, Washington will not feel well. Washington is going to feel uncomfortable. Number one, even the timing of the trip, he needed to ngoja kidogo, things to cool, because as China goes, China wants to take over. Remember, even this Mombasa Nairobi dual carriage that was supposed to be done by US, and of course this was bagged. This one Ruto bagged during his meeting with Nani in US, with Biden in US. It has not started, but you need both, because then China was supposed to do, they're looking for a facility for China to do the Nairobi-Nakuru highway all the way to Busia. But we need all at the end of it all. Now, why this is a blunder, a bad move on President Ruto's side, is Ruto is being used as a pawn in the US-China war trade. This is something that diplomatic experts had always warned. That I remember when there was escalation of the Israel-Palestine war and even Ukraine-Russia war. We took stand while coming in Nairobi saying we believe on two-state or neutrality, but we took stand. On this one, Kenya has already taken a stand. And while that is happening, Mbadi is in the US begging for loans from IMF and World Bank and some other financial institutions. So you see, it's not in bad taste with our standing. Number two, countries are struggling to align. Ruto is already marketing China and is already telling the continent and the world that he is Team China. Are we going to get ourselves into more troubles by other countries that are not aligned? Curiously, so many factors are at stake. Number two, Trump has enlisted embassies for closure in Africa, even though Kenya is not one of them. But if we continue to escalate the fallout between, of course, go China, do we also get such threats? The push for renewal of AGOA is coming in September. So there's so much of Kenya, US that is at stake, including the Haiti mission that is facing challenges. With the president, US was actually backing the Haiti mission. The president's forays in China, if you ask me, they needed to be well managed. They needed to be well managed. So keep it here. We are going to follow bit by bit the China trip. We want to know what is bagged, who and who is there. And the trips is something that had also been criticized because there were conduits of misusing money. So we are going to look at how things have changed. The austerity measures around China trip. Raila Odinga was supposed to be in China with the president. So we're also waiting for the 8 days. If he fails to go, keep it here. We'll analyze that. Thank you.